Welcome to the Education Marketing Leader podcast with Chris Raposo. If you're looking to dive into the latest industry insights, draw inspiration from education success stories, or just want to sharpen your marketing skills, you're in the right place. Here, we bring you a diverse range of voices from experts and leaders in the field, offering you a unique blend of professional development and practical strategies. Whether you want to understand your audience better, stay updated with the latest tech trends in marketing, or expand your professional network, we've got you covered. So while you're driving on your morning commute or winding down after a busy day, let's explore the dynamic world of education marketing together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Education Marketing Leader with Chris Raposo. Today, my guest is Wallace Caleb Bates, Director of Marketing Communications at Hazard Community and Technical College out of Southeastern Kentucky. He is the 2026 recipient of the NCMPR National Rising Star of the Year Award, which recognizes emerging professionals in community and technical college marketing and communications who show exceptional creativity, ability, and early impact in the field. The award is given annually in each of NCMPR's 7 districts, and district winners are automatically considered for the national award, which Caleb won. Wallace, welcome to the show.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to talk with you today.
It's great to have you. The first time I met Wallace at a conference was at NCMPR District 2 in Virginia Beach last fall. What stood out were the eclectic glasses when I saw him, and I said, I need to get this guy on the show, and here he is. So really happy to talk to him today. We're going to talk about his journey as a HCTC student to a National Rising Star and helping run the community college marketing at HCTC. So Wallace, you earned your associate's degree at HCTC. Now you lead marketing and communications there. What does that feel like to sit in leadership meetings now, the same institutions you once did in a classroom?
Yes, absolutely. So I think back often to the first day that I worked at the institution back in 2024. I was roughly almost 3 years removed from my time as a student at that point. And I can remember walking into the president's office that morning and just feeling this overwhelming sense of honor to be involved in the work and to be able to use skills that I had spent years developing at other levels within marketing and communications and school public relations and so forth. I remember thinking, am I really here? And I've actually asked that several times since. And so the best way that I could describe it, it feels surreal.
It does, doesn't it? Yes. There must be something. So why go back? I mean, you're working on your doctorate right now. You have your master's, and you decided to go back to the community college where it all started. Why is that?
Absolutely. So thinking back to my own experience, I'll tell you that it was wonderful. And I was able to develop a lot of very positive relationships with community members on campus and off. And so I learned through my experience at HCTC about the importance not only of education, but also those community relationships. And so again, for me, it was about taking what I had learned as a professional in school public relations elsewhere, bringing that back to my institution that I consider my home, and being able to serve that institution that served me so well. It's full circle.
Now, if you walk across campus, do you ever think about your former self, your younger self, and a student version of you? What would he think of where you are right now, especially within that time frame? You haven't been too far removed.
No, definitely not too far removed at all. It'll be 5 years this May. So, well, I think that first of all, he would be proud, and that's certain. But I will say, at that point in my life, during my time as a community college student, I didn't yet have the words to articulate my career goal, or my dream, if you will. And so it was through both the 4-year experience that I had, as well as that internship that I had after leaving HCTC and transferring on, that I really learned that my passion was school public relations. Everything that I do now and everything that I've done since my time as a community college student has been in part to make that younger self proud, to build upon the foundation that was laid at HCTC. And so looking back again, I think my younger self would be proud, and I think that he would be, that I'm someone he would want to be.
Yeah, tell me about your upbringing. I've been to southeastern Kentucky quite a bit. I have family down in Williamsburg and Jellicoe area. So
Uh-huh.
that area, when you were, growing up there, was education always on the horizon, or what were your plans then when you were in high school?
With regard to my specific experience, education was always something that I was taught the importance of, and so growing up, there was never really a question whether or not I would go to college. It was always a matter of when you go to college, and so I was blessed to have support from my family to pursue a college experience that worked well for me and my interest and allowed me to stay in my home region, and
Yeah.
so certainly am grateful for that. Growing up in southeast Kentucky, I come from a long line of different folks from different backgrounds, different career paths, and I've learned through that experience whether my great grandfather served in World War II. He was a coal miner. My grandfather was a farmer. I have educators in my family, my grandmother, great grandmother, and so forth. It goes back generations. Being able to witness that and that diversity has certainly helped me understand that everyone comes from a different background. And so when our students come to us, they're coming to us from different contexts. They have different interests. And so it's a matter of using that experience to meet them where they are.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Quick break to tell you about my new book that I co-authored with Rob Clark called The Attention Gap: Why Great Schools Stay Invisible and How to Fix It. We wrote it for higher ed marketers, enrollment leaders, and anyone trying to reach students in today's noisy, scroll-happy world. It's built from 130 plus episodes and conversations with higher ed leaders from this show, plus Rob's experience growing that tall family to over 4 billion views online. We unpack why the old marketing playbook isn't working any longer and what you can do about it instead to fix that. If your team is serious about closing the gap between great programs and real visibility online, this book is for you. Grab your copy of The Attention Gap today on Amazon. And now, back to the episode.
And and it's a beautiful area down in southeastern Kentucky for sure. You got the University of Cumberland's right there in Williamsburg that I've visited quite a bit. And hardworking folks, lots of coal miners there. They know the value of a dollar and education that helps people get more opportunities. So really proud of your journey. I'm really grateful that we have folks like you going back to where they started to be an example for the young students that are going through it as well, to show that there's something out there, that they can make something of themselves and they don't have to do things that maybe the previous generation has done. Like you said, you had military, you had farms, you had hospital people, coal miners, and then you took a path in education, which is really great to just be an example to it. Everybody can forge their own path. You said the unexpected turn towards school communications was one of the greatest blessings in your life. What was that moment like, and when did you realize that it was not just a job but a calling?
Absolutely. So I think that this is a good opportunity, Chris, to share a bit about my career trajectory and how I got my start in this field to begin with. After graduating from HCTC, shortly thereafter, I began working at a K-6 elementary school, and I worked in literacy intervention. And I learned through that experience pretty early on that the classroom environment was not for me. I have deep respect for educators, and I was actually having a conversation with a colleague just recently about how different people work better in different environments, right? So a lot of folks work very well with structure. A lot of folks work very well with autonomy. And so for me and my individual employee needs, the field that I'm in now allows me to be out in the community more, and that works well for me and my interest. But again, I have a deep respect for I can't state enough how much of a respect I have for our educators. With that, on the last day of my employment at the school where I was working at the time, I learned about an internship opportunity at the Kentucky Department of Education. And I had considered, when I first started out working on that 4-year degree, I had started out studying elementary education, and I had made the decision to change to communication just on a whim, really, because I was interested in the theoretical side, learning about how people communicate, why people communicate the way they do, and some of those underlying mechanisms. And so I found through that experience at the Department of Education here in Kentucky that really, school public relations blends my passions, and it revealed my purpose. That experience did, and that spans education, storytelling, strategy, and of course that community relationship building.
It's never a dull moment in communications as well, because I saw a post of yours once, a couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago actually, when you did the inclement weather announcements for HCTC. So that's kind of fun, isn't it? How'd that come about? Did somebody call out to your job too?
Yep. So when I first started back in 2024 as the public relations coordinator before becoming director of marketing and communications, that was a job duty that I was assigned at that point, right? And so during times of inclement weather, I would work directly with our marketing director at the time and our president, as well as some other folks who were in senior leadership at the institution. We worked together to figure out what the plan was, and I would relay that message onto the public. So I've kept doing that. I've stuck with that and continue to do that now. And it certainly makes for some early mornings, right? Because the snowstorms will come in overnight, and so we have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and be ready to go and ready to get that word out so that our students can be safe in the mornings, and so we're timely and they don't have to get out unless they absolutely have to. Yeah.
So, as you mentioned, you serve as the spokesperson for the college. In a small community, people know you. They've seen you grow up. They know your family. How does that change the way you approach storytelling and accountability when you share those messages?
Right. Well, I can't overstate the fact that pretty much everyone in my home community knows everyone else, right? And so there are advantages and disadvantages there. One of the greatest advantages for me, throughout my time growing up and even my the early years of my career, I was able to develop relationships with the people that I'm now working with every day. And so I know them, they know me, they know my approach to communication, they know my personality, and I'm grateful for that because that allows me to connect meaningfully with them, to establish both a shared sense of respect and trust, and that's a wonderful advantage. Now, granted, there's also a disadvantage at times because sometimes, we have to be the folks who relay information that's difficult to process or be engaged in some very difficult conversations. And certainly there's moments where I have to separate the personal and the professional, and that's an obligation that I've worked very hard to uphold, and a skill set that I've worked to build since having started at HCTC.
Yes, and there's it always reminds me of when you work close with people that seen you grow up, that seen you start out. It always reminds me of that scripture, Mark 6:4, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown amongst his relatives and his own home, right? So how does that work? Do you have is there ever a question about your credibility because they saw you grow up, some of the folks around that area?
I haven't encountered anything directly with that. I will say the college community itself, having grown up in this region, having known the folks, faculty, staff members who serve our institution for the majority of my life, in most cases, there's been a great deal of support there. And so I think that there is, here at our institution, HCTC, there is a very deep commitment to growing our own. And so a number of our faculty and staff members now serving the institution attended the institution themselves or have worked there for many years now, are from these communities. Now, granted, we have some folks who have moved in from elsewhere or who maybe had a different college experience, but certainly everyone has a deep appreciation for the people of our region and recognize the intricacies of serving a rural population, and I'm grateful for that.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. So, as I mentioned earlier a little bit, you are pursuing your educational doctorate right now, and
Yes.
you already have a title. You have a good title at your school, but and you have the award. So, what makes you keep going? What are you preparing for the future?
Well, I think it starts looking back to my time as a student at HCTC, and when I thought about the career trajectory that I wanted to have, regardless of what that looked like, I knew that a doctorate was a goal of mine. And so it starts there. I've had that goal for a long time now, and I've worked to stick with it. I've kept going since I earned that associate degree, and I've stayed in school consecutively now for a number of years, and it's been an interesting journey to say the least. But so it starts there, and then looking toward the future, and even in my present, the experiences that I'm gaining as part of that doctorate program, they're allowing me to serve my institution better. It's a skill set that I'm developing that allows me to look at problems critically and to dissect situations, to consider different perspectives, to consider policy implications. There's so much there. It's just a really neat opportunity to broaden my horizon in understanding the educational landscape. And I'll be honest, I'm certainly ambitious when it comes to my career goals, and would love to see myself serving in a senior administrative position at our institution. Very interested in a presidency one day, possibly. That's certainly an interest of mine, but we'll see how it goes. I'm happy with what I'm doing right now, and certainly want to be remain involved in marketing and communications throughout my career.
I was about to say, maybe you'll be president at HCTC one day, and I can see that, but hey, I'm always going to refer back to this episode. I had President Bates on my show back in 2026.
Well, thank you.
So, Community College Month is coming up in April. This episode will air in April. They often operate without the spotlight that flagship universities get. What do people misunderstand about institutions like HCTC?
There is a very real and deeply rooted stigma, not only in Southeast Kentucky, but across the country and beyond, that community colleges are a second or last choice. In reality, that could not be farther from the truth for a great deal of our students. So this past year, last year, 2025, our institution launched a campaign that we've called I Choose HCTC. And so the goal there has been to really highlight the many reasons that students choose our institution. And so we've used the theme hashtag I Choose HCTC to highlight real perspectives, motivations, experiences of our students. And there's still that lingering stigma, but again, many students intentionally choose HCTC as that starting point, and before they transfer to a four-year university, or some enter those high-paying, high-demand career fields and begin working and earning a solid wage after relatively short programs at our institution. And so it's certainly a matter of highlighting that our students choose HCTC for affordability, opportunity, and the ability to stay connected with their home community. So there's a lot of different elements within that I Choose HCTC, but again, getting back to the core stigma there that community colleges are often a second or last choice, when that's not the case.
No, not at all. I'm a community college grad myself. It served me as a springboard to attend the University of Florida after I attended or graduated from Hillsborough Community College out of Tampa, Florida, which was a great way for me to get my feet wet in the United States, because I immigrated from Germany. United States educational system, plus graduate without debt, was really important to me from a community college. And I think a lot of people these days, they really are looking to not go too deep into debt when it comes to their education, especially at the beginning, if they can get the general education courses knocked out and then move on to a four-year school after that. So very smart investment, and I always call community colleges the backbone of America. During community college months, we celebrate impact. When you think about HCTC serving Knott, Lee, Leslie, Perry counties, what impact makes you most proud?
In thinking about impact, not just externally, but internally, since beginning my journey as Director of Marketing and Communications at HCTC in the middle of 2025, I've worked closely with our department staff, to transform our operations and our structure. So we've strengthened our internal processes. We've grown our social media engagement, digital reach. We've revitalized multiple communications and storytelling efforts across the college, and we've connected with our faculty and staff. Just recently, for example, I sat down alongside those that work in my department and also some of our maintenance and operations employees, and we discussed ideas for physical campus upgrades. So the external the external work that we're doing has been directly impacted by that internal work. So we've increased community awareness of the college and its programs. We have a strong and visible reputation across the region. Our institution is viewed overwhelmingly with favor. Folks recognize our mission, and they also are committed to advancing that through supporting students who are interested in pursuing careers that a community college education can benefit. And then also we certainly work very diligently, and I'm very proud of our impact when it comes to crisis communications and being able to maintain both clarity and professionalism on those difficult days when we have to navigate those conversations.
Clearly, I follow you on LinkedIn, and I saw you write something. Let's start with me. Our lives are measured not by what we accomplish, but by those who we care for and inspire. In a performance-driven profession like marketing, how do you live that out day to day?
For me, it goes back to something that I learned while I was growing up. My great uncle died 10 years ago in February, so February of 2016. And on the back of his obituary program, there was a quote there from Maya Angelou, and it says that people may not remember exactly what you did or said, they'll always remember how you made them feel. And so it goes back to that core idea. I remember when I entered the human resources area at HCTC to interview for my position, that's a quote that I have used now as a guiding principle for a long time, because that's something that my uncle lived out throughout his life. And I remember looking up as I walked in the door, through the door there, a little bit nervous, ready for the interview and so forth. And that quote was on the wall. And so it spoke to me, and I get chills now thinking about it, how it felt almost like a sign, right, that I was making a solid decision. And so for me, it's based on that. And then I tend to think of myself as a qualitative thinker. Of course, I do rely on analysis quite a bit. So I tend to pay attention not just to how numbers are looking, to analytics and so forth, but also to how people are feeling, to experiences, and how emotions tend to often reveal things that numbers alone cannot. And so it's certainly, from my experience, I've found that community experiences are not always fully reflected in statistics. So from my earliest days working in school PR, it's certainly been that empathy has allowed me to succeed in my work, and it's been central to how I've approached my work.
Well, Wallace, we really appreciate your time today sharing your story. And congratulations again on winning the NCMPR National Rising Star of the Year Award. How can people connect with you after this?
I encourage folks to look me up on LinkedIn and connect with me there. I'm always looking for opportunities to grow that professional network. LinkedIn is something that I've really begun using here in the past couple years more than ever before, and I've found it's so neat being able to share ideas and to learn from the perspective of colleagues within this field, not only here in Southeast Kentucky, but also across the country and the world.
Be sure to connect with Wallace after this episode. He always shares great inspirational posts, and he's a good person to follow. So, Wallace, thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I've had a great time.
You bet. Take care.
And that's a wrap for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Education Marketing Leader Podcast this week. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and your network. And if you ever thought about starting your own podcast, now that you listen to one and you got inspired, reach out to me via DM. We'd love to help you launch your own. We'll take care of everything for you, the scripting, the strategy, the editing, the distribution. All you have to do is show up, connect with your audience, and build your personal brand. So if you're ready for it, let's chat. And for everybody else, we'll see you next time at the Education Marketing Leader Podcast. Take care, friends.